Hi, everyone. So, welcome to my first go live where I'm actually going to be reading from one of my books. My name is T.M. Brown, and I have several books that I've published, and I put out on Facebook. Just a couple of days ago, asking the question as to whether or not you guys would like to hear me do a reading. And a lot of you guys say that you would. So I thought I'd do that today. The way this is going to go for my first Facebook Live, where I'm actually reading, to make things a little bit easier on myself, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about my books, do the excerpt, and then afterwards open it up for questions and answers. I apologize if I'm not responding to your comments right away. Um, this is new to me, and I'm just trying to get my process down as to how we will do this. But I see some of you have come on board already. Dennis Perkins, how are you? Mary Manor, I see you as well. Hello. Believe me, after the session, after today's session, I will try to respond to all of your comments. Okay. So today's book, and I hope that you guys have gotten the book. It's called Struggles of the Womenfolk, and it is the first part of a three-part series that I've written. The books in the series, the first one again, Struggles of the Womenfolk. Book 2, Tethered Angel, and the third book is Another Bump in the Road. And all of these are available on Amazon.com. If you want autographed copies of the books, then please private message me and make your request. If Mary and Dennis, if you have already purchased one of my books, could you just comment with a thumbs up? I'd appreciate that. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about this particular book. This book was birthed because when I wrote my first book, A Life Not My Own, which is a memoir, my memoir, folks were asking me, what is your next book going to be about? And honestly, I didn't have a clue. I thought that A Life Not My Own would be the only book that I ever published, and I would never publish another one. It was, that first book, like I said, was a memoir. Hi, Lorraine. And it was just something that I really just wanted to see my words in print. But more importantly, when I had did the work and journaled and wrote the book and, worked through a lot of the challenges that I had that you'll find captured in the book, I felt like I was done. I felt like, okay, I can, you know, put a check mark by that particular to do in life and keep it moving from there. Hi, Lorraine. It's great to see you too. But you know, once you get on this path of authorship, it's kind of challenging to get off, right? And so I was thinking about what my next book might be about, and I was reminded of those stories, those tidbits of stories and information that my grandmother shared with me, usually around the kitchen table, after I'd come home from school, elementary school, on a cold winter day, and she's got that fried chicken on a piece of white blue ribbon bread. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. And I'd sit there and listen to her tell me just bits and pieces. And in my mind, I guess subconsciously, I filled in all the gaps that she left in her stories. And so when the call came for me to write another book, I was reminded of those stories my grandmother has shared with me. And that really was the beginnings of this book called Struggles of the Womenfolk, okay? So if you guys are ready, I'd like to start reading to you. If you're ready, somebody give me a thumbs up in the comments section so I know that you're ready and you're good to go. I'm going to wait just a second. If one of you just give me a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. Just a thumbs up in the comments section would be great. I want this to be an interactive, time for us. It's Saturday afternoon for most of us, and it's time to chill and kick back and have a little fun. So if you're inclined, just go ahead and give me a thumbs up in your comments section. There you go, Lorraine. Thank you so much. Thank you. I need that kind of interactive activity for this particular session. It's my first, and I'm kind of nervous, to be honest, you guys, but this is something that I want to share. And you guys know that on my page, I try to inspire and send words of encouragement. But sometimes you have to take your own advice. And even when things are a little fearful or a little unknown and you don't have it all figured out yet, just go ahead and do it anyway. Okay, that's my first little tip for you guys today. So if you have the book, I'm on page 1, and it's called Chapter 1, 1944. Sissy knew she wasn't pretty because everybody told her so. She had all them black features that everybody thought was ugly. Dark skin, short nappy hair, big eyes, big lips, huge breasts, and a big butt. None of that mattered to me because she was not just my cousin. She was my best friend. Her mama and mine couldn't stand each other, but we didn't care. We'd been friends for as long as I could remember. Every day, we'd walk the 5 miles to the little shack we called school, carrying our books and lunch pails. Mama would always have something special in my pail. There would be bread, cheese, jelly, and sometimes a slice of homemade cake. Sissy never had anything good. Most times, she only had a piece of bread and some leftover salt pork. Ain't got no money to be spending on some ugly thing like you, her mama would say. Her mama hated her. Folks said it was because she didn't know who Sissy's daddy was. Her mama was walking home one night when some men jumped her in the woods and made her with child. That's what folks called it in 1944. No one used words like pregnant, at least not the good girls. Ma, how do girls get pregnant? I asked my mama one day. What the hell you say, Georgie? Mama yelled as she slapped me across my face. Georgie, that's what my mama called me. It was short for Georgette. Mama was hoping for a boy when I was born. Maybe that's why she raised me to be so independent. Didn't hurt much either that my birthday was on the 4th of July. Daddy didn't really like the fact that I was more independent than my sisters. Don't no man want no woman who thinks she's smarter than him, my daddy would say while my mama rolled her eyes. Good girls don't talk like that. You too young to be asking those kind of questions anyway. I never asked her again about having babies, that's for sure. Sissy would never say anything when her mama said things like that because she believed every word. Sissy's mama, Adele, was really pretty and shapely. She didn't work. Men was always buying her stuff. Mama would call her a whore right to her face. Hi, Valerie. And Adele would just laugh and say, at least I'm getting paid for it. What you got to show for staying with that crazy ass man, but a whole lot of mouths to feed. One day you're going to catch a case of the clap so bad, they're going to have to cut that thing out between your legs. You just jealous, Aunt Adele would say. You need to use some of that time you spend laying up with all them men and clean that nasty ass house you living in. I don't see how any of them would even lay their head down in that mess. My mama never bit her tongue for nobody. People either loved her or hated her, and she didn't care one way or the other. It seems strange to me that Sissy's mama was so mean to the only child she had. My mama said it was because she'd gotten rid of so many babies before Sissy. She didn't even want Sissy, but the old conjure lady in the woods wouldn't do it for her again. Mama said that the conjure woman came from a long line of witches that went all the way back to Africa. Everybody was afraid of her, even though all of the women had been to her at least once for help. They said she could put a spell on you that would last forever. She sure was scary to look at with her long, stringy gray hair hanging down her back. She had wrinkled, caramel-colored skin and baby blue eyes. She didn't have no family. Folks tell stories about how she just showed up one day and could make it rain tadpoles, could get hold of somebody's hair and drive them crazy, and use the babies that she got rid of for all kinds of strange things. Mama told us to never go in the woods near the conjure lady's house, and we never did. It was a day just like any other winter's day, cold and windy, as Sissy and I made our way home from school. We was walking arm in arm just to keep warm. Sissy never had enough clothes. She didn't have a hat or gloves, and her 2 small shoes were cut across the front to make them fit. I had 5 older sisters, so there was plenty of hand-me-downs for me to wear. I can't tell you how many times I tried to give Sissy some of our leftover clothes, but her mama wouldn't let her wear them or even bring them in the house. "What an ugly thing like you need with nice clothes," Sissy mama would say. On days like this, I take off one of my gloves, give it to her, and put my ungloved hand in my pocket. Sissy and I were clinging to each other for dear life just to stay warm on that cold day. It was taking us longer to walk home because it was snowing so hard. No matter what we did to try to stay warm, we were still freezing. "Let's take the shortcut through there," Sissy said, pointing to the wooded area between the conjure woman's shack and the few houses still owned by the white folks. "Girl, you know them white folks will kill us if they catch us cutting through their land. Plus, you know we ain't supposed to go near the conjure woman's house. We're gonna die anywhere in this weather. Plus, it's gonna be dark soon," Sissy said, talking through her one gloved and one bare hand. We lived in the houses that was about a mile from the woods. All of our houses had been owned by former slave owners. My grandma Sue's mother had been a slave before the emancipation. She would always tell Grandma Sue that not much had changed other than she got to go home at the end of the day, if you could call it home. Where was us black folks supposed to go? Most of us just lived in the shacks down the road from our former master's house. Our men had to walk miles to find the bullshit jobs that no white man would do, cleaning outhouses or tending to the same crop as before we was free. We learned in school that the Emancipation Proclamation was signed by President Lincoln on January 1st, 1863. It was supposed to free all the slaves and give us a better life. That didn't mean one damn thing to us, Grandma Sue barked through the smoke curling her head from her corn cob pipe. "No getting away the fact that we black and can't just blend in with them white peoples. So we do the best we can and just stay away from them and live." That's why, even to this day, I don't know why I let Sissy talk me into doing something so stupid. We were no more than a mile off the road when I heard the first one say, "Hey, what y'all think you're doing?" He was probably about 50 feet from us, but he yelled so loud it felt like he was standing right next to us. Him and two other white men were sitting in a big red truck when we crossed the dirt road right in front of them. We were so wrapped up in trying to stay warm that we didn't even see them until it was too late. Now they was walking towards us. "Run!" yelled Sissy, who never really spoke above a whisper. But I guess she knew what would happen if we didn't run. So we dropped our books and lunch pails and headed back to the school. "Come on back here. We ain't gonna hurt you," the men yelled in the distance. We ran so fast I could feel the skin on my face pull back. I was so scared that a warm wetness was running down my legs. Sissy was running even faster than I was. We didn't even look behind us. We just kept on running until we ended up back at the schoolhouse. It was dark now, and there was no one following us. There was no one in the schoolhouse either. Our teacher, Miss Jackson, was long gone by now. "Now what? Mama gonna skin me alive. You know I'm supposed to come straight home from school," I said. "I should have never asked you to do the shortcut. Now we in trouble," Sissy cried. "It's okay. We need to get inside. It's getting colder," I said. But it wasn't okay. Mama would be worried about me. Colored folks were coming up missing all the time. We've been hearing about white folks just hanging colored folks and raping as they please. It'd been over 80 years since we got free, and they were still mad at us. That didn't make no sense to me. Seems like we be the ones that should be mad. We was the slaves. I was looking for something to start a fire in the wood stove that was the only heat in the small schoolhouse shack. I wasn't sure what good it would do. Even in the daytime, we could see the ground through the floorboards. Most of the glass was missing from the windows too. This was a really scary place at night. The wind was howling through the pitch black night, but at least the men didn't follow us. I think we're gonna have to stay here until it gets light," I told Sissy. "I can't stay here. She gonna kill me for sure if I do." "No," Sissy panicked. "If we go out there, them men will catch us for sure. We have to stay here." "No, I can't. She'll kill me. I gotta go. I'll tell your mama where you at and they can come get you in the morning," Sissy said, running into the darkness. "No, Sissy, stay here. Sissy, Sissy, Sissy," I pleaded. Should I run after her or stay put? Maybe she can sneak past them since she knows where they are now. It's stupid to go out there in the middle of the night and get lost, or worse, I thought. I decided to stay where I was. So that concludes the reading, and I'm open for any questions that you might have about the reading. I put together some questions, but I would prefer, sorry, I had to pick up my notes. I would prefer to hear from you guys. Anyone have a question? Just post it in the comments. So I see a couple of people have joined us since I started to read. I see Belinda Davis and Karen, my homegirl, Karen Lipscomb. I see you, Jane Moeller, and Charles Allen. Hi to you all. What made you select this book? Sarah J wants to ask, what made me select this book? You know, out of all the books that I've written, this is really my favorite. I guess because it was the first fictional piece that I wrote, and I really enjoyed departing from my own story and adding a fictional spin to this story. So Lorraine asks, what state were they in? The book takes place at least at the beginning in a little small town in Virginia, in Northumberland County, Virginia, if anybody knows where that is. A little small town called Brown Store, Virginia. Any other questions from anyone? I'm loving the questions, you guys. Keep them coming. Okay, so let me, I've got a question for you guys. How did you feel as I read the excerpt? Did you feel anxious? Could you picture what I was reading? I'd love to hear your answer to that one. So Sarah, I think you have another question. I am currently working on writing my book. Can I connect with you with questions? Absolutely, Sarah. One of the things that I've started to do recently is to do consultations, literary consultations with folks like yourself who have an interest in writing. And you can private message me and we can set up a time and I can talk to you about the cost of those consultations, which is really, really small. Lorraine says, I felt like I was right there with the girls. Oh, that's amazing. That's a real compliment for me, Lorraine, because that's one of the things that I try to do when I write. I really want readers to experience it. I want all your senses to be involved in the reading of a T.M. Brown book. I want you to see it. I want you to feel what's going on. In some cases, I even want you to smell what's going on. You have to read the book a little more to see what I mean by that. Sarah says, great, thank you. I really enjoyed listening to your book. I totally appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Any other questions before I go on to my next question? Oh, thank you, Lorraine. Thank you. I put a lot of time. Lorraine says you do it well. I put a lot of time into my books. I write for you to really have an experience like maybe you haven't had when you've read other books. I want you to walk away from my books thinking about them way past the time that you close the book, that you read that last page. So thank you, Lorraine, for that. I truly appreciate that. So I've got a question. What would you guys have done if you were Georgie in the situation that I just read to you guys? Hi, Sandy. I see you just came on board. What would you guys do? Comment a little bit about that. What would you do if you were Georgie or if you were Sissy in the situation that I just read to you all? Would you have, if you were Georgie, would you have left the school shack, and tried to find Sissy? If you were Sissy in the situation that she was with her mom, would you have stayed put, or would you have tried to get home like she did? What do you guys think? What would you have done? Like I said, I want this to be an interactive kind of thing, you guys. It's not no trick questions, no wrong answers. It's just totally your opinion. Okay, so no answers for that one right now. But if you need to think about it and you want to post your answer later on, that would be great. So Lorraine says that Georgie did the right thing. Now, what do you guys feel about that? Do you think that Georgie did the right thing? What would you have done? What about if you were Sissy? What would you have done? Think about it for a bit, and we'll come back to that. You can always post your comment right here, okay? So Lorraine already said, she already mentioned that she could see what was happening as I was reading. If you feel the same, just write me too, or M2, if you know you don't want to do a whole lot of typing, because I know I don't really like to type a whole lot, on my cell, if that's how you guys are listening. So were any of the other folks that are on this call able to see what was going on as I was reading, or if there was a segment in particular that you could really visualize as I was reading, you can put that in the comment as well. Think about that a bit, and we'll keep this thing moving, okay? Would you like to know what happened to Sissy and Georgie later on in the book? And that's just a simple yes, no, maybe. So I see that we still have several people on. So as I mentioned at the very beginning, I really want this to be an interactive kind of thing, and not me just talking the whole thing. So Lorraine, you said you sitting there at Granny's table, so you could see me doing that, yes? I mean, when I was a kid, that was one of the things that I loved, because my grandmother was not one who talked a lot. You had to spend some time with her. And when I was a kid and my grandmother was raising my brother, my sister, and I, she did everything for us. I mean, she did all the laundry, she kept the house clean, she made 3 meals a day for us. Everything that we needed, my grandmother provided, right? She was up when we got up in the morning, and she was still up when we went to bed at night. So trying to catch her at a moment where you had time to actually talk to her, man, that was like a luxury. So to just sit there with her, and hear her tell stories about what it was like for her growing up was pretty amazing. So, I see other folks coming on board, and I just want to say thank you to you all for joining us. I see Rick and Deborah Smart and Sharon Jones. And as I mentioned to the folks that were already on here, we've already did the reading. And so now we're talking about the content of that first chapter in Struggles of the Womenfolk. And I have some questions that I had pre-canned for you guys, but I'm more interested in the questions that you may have if you've read the book. Okay. So I think I asked the question, would you like to know more about what happened to Sissy and Georgie in this first book, Struggles of the Womenfolk? And I'm looking for a few comments from folks that just say yes, no, question mark, or if you are still thinking about it, that's okay also. Okay, so we'll go on to my next question. So in that first chapter, I introduced you to several different characters. And what I would like to see you all do is just, with just one word, provide a description of some of the folks that I read that were in that first chapter. So let's start with Georgie. If you had to just pick one word that describes Georgie, for you, what would that word be? So I'm going to wait until somebody comments on it. I see just a few people on now. Just one word as to how you would describe Georgie. How about Mama, Georgie's mom, or Sissy, or Aunt Adele? So Lorraine, I'm assuming that your word kind is for Georgie, correct? So what about Mama, Sissy, and Aunt Adele? What words would you guys use to describe them? Okay, so I only have one more question, and I'm hopeful that you all. Okay, thank you, Lorraine. Maybe there's a little bit of a delay in terms of the typing, and when it gets to my end, maybe like 2 cups and a string. It takes a while to get there, you know. Um, so Lorraine, how about Aunt Adele? If you had to have a word for her, what would it be? So I'm noticing, like in Facebook Live, unlike when you're in Messenger, you know, when you see the little indicator that someone is typing. Unfortunately, we don't have that as part of the Facebook Live features. Maybe we do, and I just don't know how to um, figure my page for that to show up. But I think that would be great. And honestly, this is like the second Facebook feature that I've mentioned today, like a multi delete, I'm sorry, a multi unfriend button where, you know, you could unfriend several people at the same time. And now, you know, I'd like to see some type of indication when folks are typing when you're part of Facebook Live. What do you guys think? We're just going to keep this thing moving until, you know, we get more comments. So what do you think about what Grandma Sue had to say about quote unquote staying alive? Any comments about that? For I think we just have a couple people still on here. So what do you think about that? So another question, while you're thinking about that, another question that I get asked a lot is, you know, um, that first chapter that I read to you, uh, is set in uh, 1944, right? And here we are, 2019. And I get asked a lot, you know, do I think my books are still relevant in this time frame? You know, all this time has passed. Are my books still relevant? Why would somebody want to read an historical fiction piece? You know, and I'm one that reads the news a lot, right? And I find myself making comment on Facebook, basically taking quotes from that first book, Struggles of the Women Folk, and applying it to what I see in the news today. Um, Things like what Grandma Sue said about just staying away from certain folks so you can stay alive. I mean, with everything that's going on now in the world, and um, it's become a relatively dangerous place for uh, uh, people of color to be honest, to walk the street at night in any city without being pulled over just because you're of a certain color is just as relevant today as it was back in 1944 or before. That's my opinion on it, based on what I'm reading and watching in the news, and I'm wondering what you think. So Lorraine says it's interesting to read about the past, and says some things never change, and I tend to agree with that. But I think that there is the possibility for change, although most people say that I'm a very optimistic kind of person. I do think that there's room for change. And I think that one of the ways that we influence change is by, sharing these kind of stories that hopefully will engage some kind of discussion about things that are going on in the world, and people can use this book as a way to discuss social issues. Personally, I mean, it may just be because it's my book, but I've had folks that have reviewed the book that said that this would be a good textbook, at least, for junior high and high schoolers, because, you heard me read that there's some profanity in it, and, there is intimate scenes in it and that sort of thing. So I personally don't think it's appropriate for anything below middle school, but we need ways to get the dialogue going with our young folks. I mean, if we're ever going to raise kids that are open-minded and open to all different cultures, all different colors, then we need to start engaging them while they're in school. So Lorraine says absolutely. And I'm curious about what others might think about that. I think it is very much needed. So I haven't been keeping with the time, so I'm not sure exactly what time it is. Lorraine, what time is it, honey? I'm sort of feeling like it might be like Moscato time, because I can hear the music in my head at the moment. So what would be great if you haven't had a chance to, for those of you who are looking at this after the fact, I would love it if you would just hashtag repost this. Thank you, Lorraine. 5:38. There is definitely a little bit of delay going on here, but I appreciate that, Lorraine. I would love it if you're looking at this after we're finished with the live portion, if you could comment with hashtag repost. And if you have questions that maybe you didn't want to put in the public comment section here, and you would prefer to reach out to me in a private message, that's cool too. I would love that. I would also like to hear back from you on what your overall feeling was for this particular Facebook Live, things that I could tweak to do better the next time. Like I said, this is the first time that I've done a reading in Facebook Live. I come on Facebook Live all the time, but not in this way, where you're engaging with folks that Lord only knows where you guys are at. That would be another thing that I would love it if you participated in this, and you could just comment and say, hey, listening from Florida, listening from Philly, that would be great too. I find that too often folks will say that, oh, they have a global following, but there's really no way to gauge that unless you guys out there make others aware of where you're from, right? So this whole thing really is about engagement. My intent is to connect with you guys. Maybe some of you haven't read any of my books. Thank you, Lorraine, listening from Florida. Maybe some of you haven't read any of my books and you're like, I see her pop up all the time. I know she's an author, but I don't really know what she writes. And I'm a little bit on the fence if I want to spend some money without knowing, what the books are about. That was really part of the intent. And I say part of the intent for why I decided to do this Facebook Live. I got recommendations from a lot of you guys that said, yeah, cool, that you definitely should do that. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm doing it. I also, to be quite honest, want to drive more of you to my books. I feel like that you will enjoy the read, because I think a lot of times when we try to label the genre that we write in, we don't quite get it right, or people have a certain response to that genre that may make them want to shy away from it. Maybe historical fiction sounds a lot like history and is a little boring, and why should you spend your money on a boring topic? As you can see from my reading, there is nothing boring about Struggles of the Womenfolk, Tethered Angel, or Another Bump in the Road. And let me just say that with each book, I push the limit a little bit further, because I think that's what we do as authors. We may start off a little gentle. Maybe we don't know what our target audience is going to be. We don't know how people are going to react to what we're writing. We may even, like me, when I started, I was kind of writing for everybody and anybody that might be interested in my books. But then the more I wrote, the more I started to, kind of narrow my target audience, because I feel like, followers of, A Life Not My Own, my memoir, Struggles of the Womenfolk. By the time you get through Struggles of the Womenfolk, you kind of know what kind of writer I am. And if you are going to continue down this path with me, I am going to write the kinds of stories that you appreciate. Okay, I do have a global following. I just put out a post the other day asking people to kind of just make a comment as to where they're from. And honestly, it wasn't so much for me, because I kind of already knew it. It was more for those people that are still kind of on the fence as to whether they should follow T.M. Brown. You should look at the comments for this book in particular, Struggles of the Womenfolk. Go out on Amazon.com and look at the over 80 comments that people have taken the time to leave for this particular book. This is an award-winning story. I've been in Florida for about 4 years now. In the first year that I was down here, I submitted this book to the Florida Authors and Publishing Association, FAPA, and this book took second place in historical fiction. So, this book has been awarded by my peers. My readers love it. And like I said, you can see that from the comments. If you want to go out on my webpage is www.authortmbrown.com. If you want to send me a email, I am at authortmbrown@yahoo.com. You can find me here on Facebook. I also have a Instagram. And I try really hard to not put the same content on all of my social media sites, because I think you might want to see something different if you go to another one of my sites. There will be similarities, but there will also be differences, and I think that's something that that you will appreciate. So somebody else just popped on. Hi, Tina. How are you? Hi, Tina West. How are you doing today? So we've had the reading, and we're in the midst of the Q&A session. So Tina, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, this is the time to do that. I had a list of questions, and we went through those. And we went through those list of questions. Lorraine has some questions. Lorraine Carey, my friend, you'll find her questions up above. If you have anything specific that you'd like to ask me, that's what I'm here for. I am doing well, Tina. I see that you inquired about that. I am doing well. But to be honest, when I first got here, when I first started this session, I was quite nervous. I've done Facebook Live before, but never an interactive kind of situation like this. So I'm excited and pleased that it has gone pretty well. At least I think it's going well. Maybe afterwards, people will have lots of comments to the contrary. I don't know. So we still have a couple of people on here, and to be honest, I find it challenging to just talk about myself. So if you guys want to place a comment here about what you guys are up to, are you writers? What's your thing? I would love to see that. Lorraine, you're amazing. Lorraine just posted that I'm amazing. Lorraine is amazing. She and I have been working together to develop a series that we're calling Whispering Words with Wine. And we go out to different locations, wineries. Sometimes we're at a beer joint or whatever, and we're sharing our stories and engaging the folks that are there, inviting them to come out and join us. And working with Lorraine is like working with a sister. Just, somebody who gets me, I get her. We finish each other's sentences. I really like networking with Lorraine. And the funny part about it is that Lorraine and I, we connected when she was still in the Cayman Islands. And almost immediately upon returning to the States, she sought me out at an event and came to meet me in person. And it just blew me away. Hi, Kimberly, I see you on here too. How are you? Kimberly Ross Hollingsworth is another one of my Facebook and beyond. I call them Facebook and beyond friends, because she puts on some amazing author and artist extravaganzas in the Philly, New Jersey area, and she's been so gracious in allowing me to participate in that event. I've been able to participate in several of them. You know, when I lived in the Poconos, it was a lot easier for me to get to the events, but I just love what she's doing so much that I am planning to attend her extravaganza in 2020, in August of 2020. So, Kimberly, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, no problem, Kimberly. She says, thank you so much with a big old kiss, and thank you back, okay? Um, so some of you who are just coming on board, and Lorraine, when I hit like 5:59, please let me know. Something you guys might not know about me if you know, you haven't read my first book. I can't wait either for the event, Kimberly. Something you guys might not know about me is that I was in the military. I was in the Army for almost 7 years, like back in the late 80s and early 90s. And I am a very, very punctual person. Lorraine can attest to that. For me, if you're not, and you guys have probably heard this before, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. The only time I'm ever late is if I'm lost. if if I don't if I'm not 15 minutes late, I'm probably circling around where my final destination uh, until I make my way there. That's just me. I see more of you guys coming on board. Wow, Pam, I see you, Pam Smith. Oh, you're welcome. I mean, the military, like it just really changed my perspective on a whole lot of stuff, and gave me the opportunity to have the kind of life that I had only dreamed about. You know, when I was a young woman, the only time I saw anybody that was in the military was like ROTC in college, or maybe a relative or a friend came home on leave and they were in their uniforms and they were so proud and everything. And I just say to myself, damn, I can't do that. I mean, that's too much structure and everything. But I was I was so wrong about that. When the Lord said, you know, you want to get out of where you are right now, here's how you do it. You go sign up and you go in the military. And I was like, what? No, no. I couldn't do a push-up, hadn't ran in my life, right? And the Lord gives me that message, but I followed it. And it has changed. It changed my life in ways I can't even describe to you all. So, Lorraine, please, I'll figure out a different way to have a timer for the next event. I promise you, Lorraine. But for right now, I kind of need someone to tell me when we're coming up on that 6 p.m. Time frame. Because like I said, I was in the military. I believe on being on time. And if you guys tell me later on that you enjoy what I'm doing here and you'd like me to do it again, I will tweak it. Oh, 5:54. Thank you, Lorraine. I will tweak it, try to make it better. But we're gonna be on time, and you know, that's all I can say about that. We're gonna be on time. We're gonna start on time. We're gonna end on time, because that's just how I do things. I appreciate your time, and you know, you got to appreciate mine as well, right? So, any other questions? Maybe you have some questions about the other books in the series. So thank you, Kimberly. Kimberly says, this is awesome. Keep up the great work. You set I set my notification now. If I if I can't catch it live, she'll definitely catch it. And it says see more, but I'm afraid to for this first one. Look, you guys, I'm afraid to even hit the see more, because knowing me, I'll probably like knock the phone off the stand or do something crazy. So I'm just going to sit here and and do this thing, at least for the first one. I'm sure that after a couple of these kinds of events under my belt, I'll be like a pro. You know, I'll have my little stick or whatever, and you know, we'll be doing all kinds of fancy stuff. And but for now, thank you, Kimberly. Catch it if you can catch it on the replay. That would be amazing, right? So one other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is, you know, what I as an author, I as an entrepreneur think of when I think of support, right? Support comes in many different forms. It comes in the form of course, you buying a book or two or three or 10, depending on, you know, how many people you want to share my books with. But it also comes in the form of you just sharing my posts, sharing them with the group of folks that you network with on Facebook and other social media. I love that, you know. So it's not always about buying a book. Maybe you know somebody who works in the school system, that you could put a bug in their ear and say, hey, have you heard of T.M. Brown? She's writing some amazing books that would be great for you to use to talk about social issues with your high schoolers. Or maybe you know folks in a book club who are looking for their next book, you know. Put a bug in their ear and say, hey, do you know have you heard of T.M. Brown? She's writing some amazing books. And oh, and by the way, we can dial her in and she'll do a Q&A, you know. All those things in my mind, all of those things are forms of support. And that kind of support goes a lot further than buying the one or two book. Now, I'm not saying not to buy the one or two book, but I'm saying these are some other things that you can do, right? Yes, Kimberly, sharing posts and reviews are extremely helpful. And honestly, getting reviews is extremely challenging. And that's another question that I'd have for you who are readers. You know, what is it about leaving a review that you find challenging? I would love for, you know, if we've got some like heavy readers on here, I would love to hear, you know, what are the stumbling blocks for you in terms of leaving a review for books that you've read. I mean, is it more thing about like the honesty of it, in terms of, you know, sometimes a book's not that great and you feel like you have to review everything at a 5, you know. You don't feel like you have the right words to review a book. I'm curious as to what stands in the way of writing a book, of writing a review. So Pam Smith said, I just got my reading mojo back. I will definitely have to read your series of books. Go, girl. Thank you. Thank you so much. So Lorraine, I'm sure we're just coming up on the 6 o'clock hour, like really, really quickly now. We may even be past it. I wish, okay, here's another feature for Facebook, right? If we say that, if we set up an event, right, especially something like Facebook Live, and we're coming to the last couple of minutes, wouldn't it be great if, thank you, Lorraine, wouldn't it be great if Facebook had a little timer or something so that we could conclude our sessions, and not just stop abruptly, I think it would be great. So we've come to the end of this session, and I just want to say thank you to all of you who took the time out of your Saturday to come and talk with TM, right? I think I want to do more of these, but you guys, let me know where it needs to be tweaked at. Let me know what you would like to hear me talk about in this forum, right? My feelings won't be hurt if you say, "Nah, girl, my feelings won't be hurt." So please reach out to me so I can tweak this thing, right? Again, I'm TM Brown, and you have spent an hour of time with TM. So have yourselves a great day. Stay inspired and just do you, okay? Talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.